Hey, good afternoon. Obviously excited to get back into game week, going up to Arkansas, another 11 a.m. kick, playing a really good opponent. Coach Pittman's team are always tough and physical and play really hard, and that's been no doubt shows up on film again this year. Coming off a bye week, obviously couldn't come at a better time for us. Gave us a chance to give a lot of guys some time off. We really kind of used it as a developmental week, poured the vast majority of the reps into the younger guys, either freshmen who haven't really played at all, or guys who the majority of their snaps have been coming on special teams roles or in reserve roles. We really put the bulk of the reps last week of practice into those guys. Again, more development. Hopefully you develop some depth, because you always need it going into the second half of the season, and gave us a chance to give a lot of our older guys who played a whole lot of football and have played the vast majority of the snaps this season. They really almost wasn't a true week off, but they got very few reps. Give them a chance to get their bodies feeling good again, because this really, since going into training camp, right, bye week is about your only chance to get feeling back that healthy again. And so players had off Thursday, Friday, Saturday, while coaches went out on the road recruiting. That's the other benefit of bye week. You know, NCAA gives you 33 evaluation days to split up between your staff, and so we've used those days now. Got coaches out on the road, spent a lot of time going around the states, junior college games, high school games. Again, give our players some time off, and then now hopefully they're feeling refreshed, recovered, and excited to compete, because we're playing a heck of an opponent this weekend. So that'll open up the questions.
Zach,
Yeah.
Is there any kind of update on Will and Woody Marks? Do you expect them to play Saturday, and how are they kind of progressing?
No update. I'm in with every other guy. All right. Gave them limited reps last week because they played the vast majority of the snaps, and every single guy on the roster is on a day-to-day evaluation, and everyone who's medically cleared to play and able to play will play, and if they're not, then they don't.
Steve? Kind of follow up on that, you mentioned those guys get limited reps. Are you saying they were full participants in practice last week?
I'm saying there's a whole bunch of guys on our roster who have played the vast majority of the snaps this season in games, and after 6 games, your bodies are a little beat up, and so we either held them out of practice or gave them very limited reps. And that applies to Buki Watson, Jet Johnson, Jaden Crumedy, Nathan Pickering, those receivers have played a bunch of snaps. I go on and on and on. So we really, like I said, we use it as a developmental week. The guys who have not played at all, or the guys who the vast majority of their snaps have been in special teams roles, not their primary positions, we invested last week's practices into developing those guys at their primary positions.
Kind of looking at Arkansas, I know that you mentioned Coach Pittman's team's always playing hard. What do you see that they do so well, and how does he get so much out of those guys?
On defense, I think they're playing really good on defense. They have a lot of impact players right now. They got out of the transfer portal. They kind of rebuilt that side of the ball, and they are long and big and physical up front. Their last 5 games, all but one of them is a one possession, 1-score game, and if the ball bounces the other way, or 1 or 2 plays go the other way, the result could be drastically different. But Coach Pittman's an offensive line coach by trade, so he's got big physical offensive linemen who come off the ball, and they play like a team coached by an offensive line coach. But they play really good on defense right now. Obviously on offense, KJ Jefferson is as dynamic of a player as there is in college football. I mean, you see guys bouncing off him left and right. His ability to shrug off tacklers is very impressive. I'm sure Rocket Sanders has been frustrated this year because he hadn't been able to go in several games. But you look at what he did last season and what he's done in his career, he's just, every time he gets the ball is a threat to break out. They got really good length at receiver, guys who run well. Again, I think they did a nice job kind of rebuilding their roster. They got a lot of guys out of the transfer portal who are playing really good for them, and they look like a big physical football team on film.
Justin. Out of those developmental practices this week, were there any guys you or the coaching staff, pointed out that you felt took major strides in where they are compared to fall camp and maybe earned some possible extra playing time in these last 6 games?
Let's say, I don't know if I'd single anyone out in particular. A few of those guys have actually started to get some game reps. It just gave us a chance to give them more reps, additional reps. Instead of being a reserve D lineman or O lineman or tight end or receiver, well, now you get to run with the first string in practice. And so, rather than run the risk of singling out one or two guys and leaving out a couple others, and then, I offend someone, probably best to just say, not mention anyone specifically, but yeah.
Steph?
Last season you guys closed out the year, I think you won 4 or 5 or 4 or 6 games to close it out. Just how important is it to kind of have that momentum in the second half of the season and have some success going into the offseason in terms of, recruiting and things like that?
Well, so, like I said, I said after the last game, college football is a game of momentum. Well, the same thing goes in regard to your program and going into the offseason. Everything's always better when you're coming off a win, right? So when you can rip off a string of victories, it builds positive momentum towards everything else you're trying to accomplish in your program. Obviously, it creates positive momentum on the recruiting trail, but we're a long way from the end of the season, right? We're at the halfway point, so we need to focus on us, the things that we can control, which is how we show up every day to prepare and the work we put in, because we're facing a really quality opponent, and obviously, they want to compete and win just as bad as us. They've had, again, five straight games, or 4 of which are 1-score games. They are hungry to get back out there, compete, and get a victory. We need to make sure we are just as hungry to compete and get a victory.
Logan?
We've seen Bryce Pollock on special teams, and he got a little bit of time in the secondary in this last game. How beneficial was that, along with last week, in his development?
Yeah, see, that's why I didn't single out anyone specifically, right? Because then I leave other people out. That's how you get better at this game, by playing this game, right? And particularly against the highest level of competition you can go against, right? And so, the fact that he's gotten game action against another team's first string, right? You get exposed to a different speed and physicality and level of play that develops you as a player. Special teams reps obviously give you exposure to that as well. So then last week of practice, right? You can limit some reps for DCAM or DeCarlos. That puts Bryce in with the ones. He's going against the first string offense. Well, again, that gives him more exposure to a higher level of competition. All of those things develop you as a player. And so you go down the second half of the season where you're going to have to get some reps from guys in your second or third string, all right? Hopefully that experience they've had earlier in the season, either getting in games or practices going against your first string, hopefully it better prepares them for that.